Focus! And his opponent in the red corner, wearing black trimmed with silver, he's 6 feet 2 inches tall, or 188 centimeters. He weighs 233 pounds, or 105.7 kilograms. In 96 fights, he has 92 victories, 50 by knockout, with only 4 losses. He's the 1994 Karate World Cup champion, and 96 and 97 K1 Grand Prix Best 8 performer from Melbourne, Australia, presenting Sam Greco.
Sam, you said this is your first time in Bulgaria. Tell us, how do you feel, man?
You know what, when I first found out I was coming to Bulgaria, I had this perception of Bulgaria, you know, being a really tough, cold place. But I got here and it's warm, the weather's beautiful, and the people are absolutely phenomenal. And the place where I'm staying and the training environments has been absolutely cool, really cool. I've been sort of welcomed with open arms. You know, I'm enjoying it.
And you're an instructor here for the fighters in the camp. Tell us, how do you assess the level of the fighters here, and what are your impressions from the camp so far?
I think generally my impression of the camp and the fighters here, or the participants, pretty much spans over, you know, from a lower level to an upper level. But everyone's trying to make progress, and I think that's why, you know, Senshi has invited guests like ourselves, who have been in the sport for so long, to teach, to up the level all the time. I think there's great potential from what I see. You know, the more and more I'm here every day, teaching 2 times a day, I'm seeing more and more quality come out of these camps and out of students. So I think potentially, you know, the standard can come up very, very quickly here.
Tell us, what are the main topics of the training sessions? What do you try to teach and implement in the training sessions? Something more specific.
Look, I came here with the intention to teach people to train smarter and fight smarter and not harder, if that makes sense. When I first came into the sport of karate with kyokushin, it was all about how strong you were, technical, but really just kept stepping forward. In today's world and today's fighting, you can't do that. You know, you have to be a lot smarter. So I've been working on, you know, striking, cutting an angle, striking from an angle. You know, working on distance, working on position, head movement, incorporating all that. You know, rather than just go forward and back. So again, working smarter, not harder. That's what I've been implementing, and a lot of the students seem to enjoy it.
You mentioned Senshi. Tell me, what do you know about Senshi? What have you heard about Senshi? Have you seen any fights, any galas?
Yeah, look, I have seen the kickboxing fights and the Senshi Gala, the events they put on, and I think it's phenomenal. They're giving a stepping stone or a stage for fighters to prove themselves and get up on the professional level, you know. So I think the company is going in a very good direction. I mean, sure, I come from K1 background, which was the biggest in Asia, to now coming here to Senshi, and I can see Senshi having the same principles, if not better, in the years to come.
You said K1, you've been opponents with some of the other instructors here at the camp, with Ernesto, with Peter, with Semi, but now you're working together as a team. Is this like strange for you, and how do you find working with them when you have competed so much against them in the past? Yeah, look, being in their presence and teaching with them, we're K1 brothers. We have been from day one. In the K1 days, we used to eat together before the fight, and then eat together after the fight. There was no animosity. There was no hate, you know. We were together, we were a group together. Unfortunately, in today's world, in the way the new sport's going and the way it's going through UFC and a few others, it's become, you know, it's become a love-hate relationship of people abusing others, and I don't particularly like that, you know. Do your talking, do it inside the ring with this, you know. But teaching with them today is phenomenal. It's for me, it's an honor, you know, and I believe with them it's probably an honor too, that we're able to compete. Now we're bringing all our knowledge together, giving it to the rest of the world. So I'm honored to be here and to be invited here, to be quite honest. And you said that you are impressed by the level of Senshi, and you see something from K1 implemented in Senshi. But how do you compare the overall level of kickboxing organizations to the golden era of K1 back in the 90s and the beginning of the...
Look, I think K1 had a monopoly. They knew exactly what they were doing, and K1 at the time was the gold, you know. Everyone, doesn't matter where you were, wanted to be there. That was the pinnacle, you know, in the world, and everyone wanted to be there. If you wanted to be a kickboxer and you wanted to be a known name, you wanted to go to K1, obviously through heavyweight division. I can see Senshi, perhaps in later stages, in a few years, you know, developing that. It's a long process. It's not a short process. It's about building trust with the competitors and the owners and the officials and everything else. And then you start to build momentum. Do I believe they can do it? Yeah, hell yeah. You know, no one else is doing it at the moment. K1's finished, you know, the heavyweight division's finished. And that style is still around, but it's not applauded like it used to be. And I think Senshi could be the next generation of that type of style.
And how do you compare the level of heavyweight kickboxing now back to your old days? For example, Peter, Ernesto, they say like, oh, back in the days there was a lot more competition, a lot more stronger heavyweights. Now there's just like 2 or 3 guys. How do you see it?
Yeah, look, I tend to agree with that. And I might sound a bit biased, but I think in our era, in our times, it was the best of the best for a reason.
Speaking of your era, tell us, let's go back to your beginnings, to your roots. Tell us how did it all happen that you got into karate, into combat sports?
Well, you know, I was playing soccer. Some people understand it as football for 10 years. And at a very young age, the age of 15, I was playing first division in Australia. I was one of the youngest players in Australia. And I had a contract issue. And my parents didn't have the money to fight the system, you know, for me to leave. So my dad said, I'm going to take you out of soccer. And I started crying. Why? I love this sport. I've been here 10 years. He goes, no, coming out. I'm not doing this, you know. So he brought me to karate. He loved karate because my dad was in the army also, and he shared the discipline factor, same as karate, discipline, respect, everything. So he took me to karate, and I hated it. For the first month, 2 months, I was crying. I don't want to go, you know. But after 2 months, I took a liking, you know. I started to like it, I started to develop, and I started to understand what respect was about, you know, the us and everything else, and my superiors, you know, start to understand that. And then I started grading, you know, from white belt and so on up. Before I knew it, you know, it was a shodan, and then before I knew it, you know, yondan and so on. But it was that whole development. I'm so glad that my dad did push me into doing that, because today, karate is my strength. It doesn't matter what I do in life, I adapt what I did then, the principles then, into my everyday life, into my family life, into my friend life, into my training, into everywhere. It's made me stronger physically, and it's made me stronger mentally and determined to succeed. You know, I believe where there's a will, there's a way, and karate in general has shown me that. You know, never lose that will. You know, you never want to die. You just want to keep going, and it's taught me to be a fighter. For me, the word fighter, I love the association, because being a fighter means not giving up, you know, fighting against adversity, fighting harder when the chips are down, you know, constantly just go, 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 but working with this, not so much with this, yeah. So that's what it's taught me, and taught me to believe. So I'm grateful that, that my roots, you know, were kyokushin when I first started, and for many, many years, until I made a transition.
And what do you think was the hardest fight for you in your career, and what was the most important trophy you have won? You won many fights.
Look, one of the hardest fights, and there's a story behind it, was my WAKO world title against Mike Bernardo. I had hard fights with Ernesto Hoost and Peter Ertz and everyone else, Andy Hogg. I had a lot of hard fights, but this one in particular is memorable for many reasons. I was in Australia training for the fight against Mike Bernardo, who was from South Africa. We were going to fight in Japan. And 2 weeks before the fight, I was training. Training was going really, really good. You know, normally it's 12-week training session, camp. And about 10-week mark, my mother called me. She said, you've got to come quickly to the hospital. I go, what's wrong? Your dad has to undergo heart surgery. I go, what? you know, just like that. And so I raced to the hospital, and on the way to the hospital, I rang my trainer and I said, oh, look, my dad's in hospital. I need to go there. I understand we've got the fight. My trainer said, stop. Go to the hospital, look after your family. If we have to cancel the fight, we cancel the fight. Family first. We can always fight for world title another time. So I went to the hospital and I saw my dad. My dad was lying in the bed and my mum was there, and I said, what's wrong? And he explained to me, he says, no, son, I'll be okay, you know. And what he needed to do, they need to do 5 bypass. So they basically cut him here, take his heart out, and they change all the arteries because he had blocked arteries. And it's a very big operation, very big operation. And so I was scared because, you know, sometimes it can go good, sometimes it can go bad, you know. So the importance of the world title now was nothing. I didn't even think about it. So I worried about him. And I remember the next day I walked in, it was the day before the day of the operation. And the first thing my dad said to me, he says, oh, son, how's your training going? I said, it's not. It stopped. He goes, why? He goes, I know you've got a world title. Why aren't you going? I said, Dad, no, I'm going to worry about you, worry about the family, and then I'll do this later. And he's turned around and said to me, no, don't worry about me. He says, I know you want this world title. I want you to do it for me. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. Let's have your operation first. Anyway, he had his operation. About 7 hours later, I saw him, and he looked like death warmed up. He was just white, big, and they cut him open here, his arm, his leg. And it was quite hard to watch, you know. And when he came back, the first thing he asked me, this is after about 1 hour, he said, how's your training going? Again, he asked me. I said, Dad, why are you like this? And he says, I really want you to fight for the world title. I said, I'm not fighting. I said, that's it. He goes, one thing. He says, if you want me to get better, he goes, I want you to fight. Please go. I spoke to my trainer. I told him, and he says, okay. So with 8 days before the fight, I left. I went to Japan. I ring him every day, make sure he was all right. Got to Japan, started training. It was fantastic. You know, training was good, except for my dad. You know, I'd make contact. And my instructions were quite easy with Mike Bernardo because he was a big puncher. Don't mix any more than 2 or 3 punches with him. You know, hit, move, you know, because he punches very hard. So I said, okay. And the first round, we went out, moving around, beautiful. All of a sudden, I got very comfortable. And 1, 2, 3, Mike Bernardo, big right hand, boom, hit me here, knocked me on my back. Knocked me on my back. My body was just heavy, like steel. Yeah. And I opened my eyes, I saw the referee standing up. It was just like a silhouette. And I hear, 1, 2. Oh, I'm thinking, come on, Greco, get up, get up. So I get goosebumps, look. And I get to one knee, and I stand up, and I'm moving like this. And the referee say, you okay, Sam? Yeah, I'm okay. Now, karate or you know, a fighter will never say, no, I'm not okay. Or you always say you're okay. It doesn't matter whether you are or not. So he says, okay, fight. Mike comes straight towards me again. I went to throw a punch and a kick, and I slip over, get back up, and the bell went. So Mike went to his corner. My corner was there, but I was walking to another corner. And the referee grabbed me and said, no, this way. So anyway, my trainer says, what are you doing? You know, and he said to me the first 15 seconds, 20 seconds of him talking to me, he was talking to, like, the table. Nobody. And then after I came to, and he said to me, what's wrong with you? I told you, no more than 2 or 3 punches with him. And he gave me my instructions. He says, fine. We go out there now, second round. Just move. Boom, 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 move. Don't stand in front of him. And then come back, and the third round we move on. I said, okay. So I went out. My legs were like jelly still. I went out. I done what I was told, came back. And he says, okay, 3 rounds to go. Now you have to switch on. You have to destroy Mike Bernardo. I said, okay. He gave me the instructions. And the referee says, second out. And as I walked past my trainer, he stopped me. He goes, Greco. I turn around. I said, what? He goes, your dad's depending on this. And it was, it was that time that everything inside me just switched on.
You can take a moment.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, everything inside me switched on. And I thought to myself, I must do this, yeah? And for 3 rounds, I destroyed him. Destroyed him, cut here, cut there, hit him from everywhere. It's like brand new Sam, you know? And at the end of the 5th round, I knew I'd won the world title. And when my hand got raised, you know, I thanked my dad and my trainer for it, you know? So that was most memorable, you know, coming back from being knocked down very hard to winning the world title and having that connection with my coach. He knew when to press the button, made it very memorable, you know.
And that's a really inspirational story. Like all these lessons through your career, they taught you so much from your beginnings in karate and your successful career. What do you think is a key element you would give an advice for a young and up-and-coming fighter to improve on in order to become successful like you? What is the one key element?
I think the first primary key anyone should have is understand what they want to do. Have a goal. Once you've got a goal, have a plan. Yeah? And as I said to you, in today's world, the sport has grown so fast, it's developing so fast, that the ability to learn is a lot easier than what it was when we had it. We had to resource all our stuff. They have it at the touch of their hands, through a phone, through, you know, social media, through closer contacts with people. You're able to contact people now a lot easier than waiting, you know, it's 9 hours behind there. You can do so many things, so there's no excuses. If you decide to become a fighter and you decide to be a professional, you've got to start living that life. And you've got to understand what's involved in that life. Yeah? And it's not about just training. It's what you do outside the training complex, the way you conduct yourself outside in general life, you know, makes all this. You understand what I'm saying? It's not about the kicking and the punching. That's part of it, but it's everything else. You know, you dedicate your life and your inner soul to this, you'll be successful. Yeah? If you don't and you want to just do it part-time, you're going to get hurt. This is a sport where you can get hurt very, very easily, and some people might come back from it, some people might not. So the advice I give to the students or people that are wanting to do this, be open-minded. Don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to not try. That's the difference. So that's my advice to people.